Alright, so jumping into this, so now we're actually going to go in and take a look at like how we talk about graphing and analyzing these guys and the different forms. So in this case here we have ourselves inside of the vertex form. And so we want to be able to look at this guy and be able to talk about its different characteristics along the way. So whether it be in vertex form or whether it be in standard form. Vertex form is a little bit easier to do in that, if I wanted to talk about the characteristics of this guy, I can start off, and if I look at these steps here that I'm going to be looking for or being asked or possibly asked inside of my math lab, is that I can look at this guy, and because I know that my format is y is equal to a x minus h quantity squared plus k, then I can look at this guy and I can say, oh, well, since my a value is equal to 2, look here and look at my rules. If a is greater than 0, I open up. If a is less than 0, I open down. So in this case right here, my graph is going to open up. We go to number 2. Let's change colors actually. So we go to number 2 and talking about the vertex. Well, a quick and dirty way of looking at this is that, when we look at this guy, we know that when we compare it to the parent function, so the parent function of this is y equals x squared. So the parent function of this guy is going to be this graph that looks like that. That has a vertex right there at 0, 0. Well, if we take this guy right here and we move him to the left 4 times, and we move him down 7 times, that means that we're taking this guy and going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're over here. So just by looking at our transformations, we can actually tell that the vertex of this guy is going to be at -4, -7, based upon these transformations from the h and the k right here. Now, you can actually go through the process and you can actually find the vertex other ways, but that's going to probably be the easiest way, is just use our previous transformation knowledge. Number 3. On number 3, we're looking for the axis of symmetry. Well, the axis of symmetry is nothing more than the x portion of your vertex. So if our vertex occurs at -4, -7, our axis of symmetry, and I'm going to start using my abbreviation, that I like to use. I use AOS. So axis of symmetry is x equals -4. All right. Step number 4. On step number 4, I want to find the x-intercept. Well, if I want to find the x-intercept, that means I'm going to let y be equal to 0. So remember, we pull up our graphing calculator. Give me 1 second for me to load that software. Alright, so remember with our graphing calculator, before we plug anything in, we go, so from our home screen, from our home screen, right, I want to go to y equals. And in this case here, let's go ahead and clear out everything that's inside of here. So I don't have anything inside the equation. Let's go back to the first one. And let's type in our function we're looking at. So in this case here, it's 2x plus 4 squared minus 7. And so we can go ahead at this point, remember, you can take a look at the graph and you can see. So you can see how, remember I talked about how here's the parent function in blue. And what we've done is we've transformed -4, -7 based upon the +4 and the -7. So you can see that there's my graph. And we're looking for the x-intercepts. Well, we know if we want to find the x-intercepts, it means y is equal to 0. So remember, we can go look at the table. So second graph will take us to that table. So I'm going to put a little note here, see table, to remind you that you pull your table up. So now that my table is pulled up, I'm looking for when y is equal to 0. Well, that's unfortunate. Y is not equal to 0 on these particular problems. Alright, so no big deal. Most of the problems are going to happen inside of what we're going to be doing with my math lab for this particular question will actually pop up, and you'll be able to see them, and I'll show you real quickly on the second one here in just a moment. So in that case there are definitely X-intercepts, excuse me. So like, I mean, if you go back and you look at your graph, you can clearly see that when I pull this guy off the side right here, you can clearly see right here and right here it crosses the x-axis. The problem is that it crosses at a fractional quantity. It crosses somewhere between -2 and -3. So if you go back to your table and you take a look, somewhere between -2 and -3, you see how you go from positive y's to negative y's? That means you crossed over the x-axis. So we have a fractional quantity there that we could find that at, and I'm not going to go into how to do that in the calculator right now because, like I said, the problems that we'll do, you'll be able to find the zeros on the side, and I'll show you that here in just one second. But while we're here, let's go ahead and knock out the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is when x is equal to 0, and same thing, see your table. So you come up here to the table and you see, oh, it crosses the y-axis at 25. So my y-intercept occurs at 0, 25. Alright, so plot the vertex and graph, we got that part, we know how to do that and so forth. So let's real quickly, before we leave the screen, because we're not going to do this whole example here, let's take a look at what the zeros would look like for this guy and see if we can actually see them. Alright, so clear this out. So negative, and follow along with me. Plus, push these buttons and go through the process of putting it in. Don't just sit here and watch me. You can always hit pause, type it in, and then come back and re-listen to the audio or rewind it, and then go through the process. Let's see what it looks like. So we hit graph. So clearly we got a parabola. So we can answer honestly, we can answer some of these questions, couldn't we? It opens down. Where's the vertex? We can see the vertex is right there. So we can kind of guesstimate. We can see it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then up, and it looks like 7. Well, that makes sense because this is to the left 8 times and up 7 times. That makes perfect sense. So that means that my vertex, if we were doing this for part 2, my vertex would be at -8, +7, which is that spot right there. Alright, we keep on going down. My axis of symmetry would be, my AOS would be x equals -8. And then we get to number 4. And on number 4, we're looking for the X-Intercept. And if we're doing an X-Intercept, that means we let y equals 0. So we go to our table, second, graph, and we're looking for when y is equal to 0. Well, dang, this guy too, the same thing. So for both of these examples, unfortunately, and like I said, if you're in Vertex Form, they're not going to ask you where the intercepts are. It's the standard form ones they will. But you can see here, I mean, clearly we look at the graph, it definitely crosses the x-axis, doesn't it? I mean, you can see it there. Let me grab my pen. You can see it crosses right there, but obviously it's at a fractional quantity again. So don't sweat that. We'll take a look at it in just one second. So I'm going to stop this video right here. This will be if we're looking at in vertex form. So let's go take a look at standard form.